Thank you, ladies, for joining me for another episode of Extraordinary Women. I have a really amazing guest with me this afternoon, Miss Camilla Rambaldi from San Antonio, Texas. Camilla, before we get started, please introduce yourself for the audience that does not know you, where you're from. We already established where you're from, but where you're originally from, what you do, and I don't know, maybe like one interesting fun fact about you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my name is Camilla Rambaldi. I'm a news anchor here in San Antonio for the Fox affiliate, and I also anchor the news for ABC 45 as well, which is broadcasted in North Carolina. And I was born and raised in Los Angeles, California, so that's home to me. But my family roots are actually in Italy. Both of my parents are 100% Italian, both born and raised in Italy. So I'm Italian.
Where did you get your start, and how long have you been in the news business now? How long have you been anchoring?
So I've been in the business for about 7 years now, and I actually had my start at a TV station in Helena, Montana. We were talking about the cold just a few moments ago. So I did have a little bit of experience working in extremely cold temperatures. The coldest I've ever been in was 10 below. So that was my first reporting job. And I was also anchoring there and producing. So my first 2 years in the business were spent in Helena, Montana. And then after that, I was looking for new opportunities, and I ended up here in San Antonio. So I've been here for about 5 years now. And I started off as a general assignment reporter, night side. And then I ended up transitioning to the morning show for 1.5 years. And that's when I started fill-in anchoring and whatnot, and obviously doing a lot of the field work. And then back in 2019, I was promoted to co-anchor our nightly newscast, Fox News at 9.
So have you always wanted to be a reporter? What inspires you to pursue this type of profession?
I've always been a storyteller since, my younger days, since high school. And I truly felt the fire in me in high school when I started writing for the school paper there. And I just really wanted to connect with people and share their stories and be a voice for others. It has been a truly, I should say, fascinating journey, because I have learned so much more about myself and building my craft even more through these different challenges, and learning how else can I connect with people. And I think that when I had to anchor from home for a period of time, I felt like I truly got to connect with people even more, because it just felt so personal, because I was in my own home doing the news, and because we were all going through the exact same thing, I just felt so much more connected. And it really got me out of that space of, being in the studio every night and now doing the news from home. So it definitely was a change, but I learned so much in that process. And I never would have imagined anchoring a show from my living room, but it just goes to show that anything is possible. But overall, working in news, it has been a truly incredible journey, and I have learned so much more about myself as a journalist, but as a woman and a human being. And it has truly been just an empowering process.
So what would you say is some of the challenges that you face being a reporter on a daily basis? And how do you handle those challenges?
Well, I think one of the biggest challenges, and I'll touch base on what you just mentioned, but I think it's covering the heartbreaking stories, because at the end of the day, we have to remember that we are human too, and it's okay to feel, and that alone can be hard, because you're covering, heartbreak, you're covering a deadly shooting. So that can take a toll on you emotionally and on your mental health. So I think it's so important to take the time for yourself as well. And your mental health is so important on so many aspects. So that alone is something that I never would have imagined going into news right away. And then when I started covering different stories, it really hit me all at once. Especially, I remember when I covered Hurricane Harvey back in 2017, being in the middle of all the damage and, people losing their homes and interviewing people going through so much hardship, it definitely takes a toll on you.
What is one thing that people may not know about you?
The first thing that comes to mind that I would share is I grew up with a single mom, and that alone was extremely challenging. But I have learned so much from my mom, from seeing my mom, through the struggles and doing so much on her own. And when I think of women empowerment, that is the first thing that comes to mind, because my mother really instilled in us, and my sister as well, is, you have to work for what you want. You have to work hard to achieve your dreams, and you have to build yourself up, because it all starts with your inner dialogue, right? Yeah. And that's where I truly believe confidence comes from. You have to be your biggest fan, and my mom really instilled that message within us, in that strength. So she's definitely played a huge part in who I am today, and how I've been able to navigate through my journey.
You love to mentor. And I love this about you, because I also love to mentor as well. I love to mentor military spouses. But why is this important to you? Why do you mentor? And what does it do for you? How does it help you as a woman? How does it help you grow as a professional?
I always put myself in their shoes, because I once was in their shoes. And I remember, as an aspiring journalist, at Cal State University Northridge in California, I was always looking for a mentor, and I was always looking for feedback, and just having somebody there that can guide you through making certain decisions, especially when I was interning and figuring out where do I go next. So having that person that you can rely on, and that confidant, as I would say, to reach out to and give you feedback, I think is so crucial if you want to become a journalist, or in any field rather. And I feel that I should give that back to other students that are going through that same journey. So I love chatting with students from my alma mater. I've kept in contact with the professors there. So if there's ever somebody that is looking for a job, that's about to get their first job, I always we'll take that call and walk them through it, and what they can expect, and how they can prepare. And I just love hearing what they have to say, because I was once that person, and I know what it's like. It can be an intimidating, process, going out there and doing your first interview for a reporter position. So it makes me happy to see their success, and something that I want to definitely continue doing.
That just reminded me of an interview that I had last week. So I had an interview with a friend of mine from my hometown. She's running for mayor in our hometown. And we had a discussion about what the key to success is. And yeah, she was saying the key to success is consistency. And I said, the key to success is actually, I believe, being able to ask for help, and being okay to ask for help. You really can't get to most places without the help. And we started discussing about that whole thing being self-made. And I never thought of this until she said it, but she said, she's like, I don't even think the self-made thing is real. Like, I think to be self-made would mean you don't have any type of support. You didn't have any help. No one was there. And that just made me think about you saying you like to help these students, you like to be there for them and kind of mentor them into getting their first job. Everybody has to seek the help from somewhere. Nobody, I believe, is self-made. There's always someone in your corner who is helping you get to the next level, whether that person is supporting you financially, emotionally, mentally, professionally. Everybody has some kind of support. You started somewhere with someone. And so that just made me think. That just made me think about, how these students, they really are, getting a true experience, a real experience, and something authentic coming from you, being able to work with you and talk to you. So I applaud you for that, because we need more people.
Thank you.
That.
Yes, absolutely. And the one thing that I always remind students, and I know when I've talked to them, they say, how hard was it for you in that first job? How scared were you? And the first thing that I tell them is, you have to accept the fact that you will fail, and that is okay, because it is your first job. You are going to make mistakes, and you will learn from them and move on. And don't worry so much about perfection, but just embracing that journey. And I really had to remind myself of that when I got that first job, because I was trying so hard to just get everything right. But there was one time I didn't press record when I did an interview because I was trying to figure out the white balance on the camera. So things will happen, but you learn from them and you walk away saying, okay, now I know how to do this. But you have to be willing to accept the entire journey and embracing it, because there's going to be ups and downs. I don't really believe in mistakes. I believe in lessons,
Mm.
and all of it, is a lesson. But it's just accepting that and being comfortable with that. And like I said earlier, don't strive for perfection, but just really just embrace that journey, embrace where you're at in that moment.
Yeah. Speaking of mentoring students and making sure that they do well in this business, you run your monthly blog called The Empowered You, which
Yes.
is how I found you. Well, actually, I found you because you did a blog on Liberty Zabala from Fox 5. She was on this podcast, and I read her blog. It was absolutely beautiful. And I've read some of your previous entries as well. How did you start this? What made you want to start this? And how long have you been doing it now? I absolutely love it.
The timing of this podcast, it's a perfect time, I should say, because this month I'm actually celebrating 1 year of the launch of The Empowered You. I launched it right before my 28th birthday.
Wow.
And so, yeah, it's going to be a year in just a few days now. And I started it because I was always pondering on starting a blog. I really wanted to do something more and additional to my job. And I felt like this would be a great way to connect with people and an opportunity to share more about my own journey in finding strength, not only as a TV journalist, but as a woman and a human being. And I hope with the content that I share that I can bring people some positivity and inspiration.
I absolutely love that. If you guys have not checked out her blog, if you haven't seen it, please check it out. It's really good. You can learn a lot from some of the people that have been on her blog. So please check that out. I will tag it at the end of this
Yes.
episode as well, so that way you guys can have access to it. But so going forward with being inspired, women empowerment, and just, you seem like you're very sure of yourself, and that, there's a lot of self-love. I feel a lot of self-love coming from this interview right now through this camera. So what is something about yourself that you have learned to accept and just love? And, you used to think it was a flaw, and now you love it about yourself, and it is what it is.
Striving to getting to know ourselves and healing is not an easy process by
Mhm.
no means. And the biggest thing that I've learned is learning to accept the self acceptance, if that makes sense.
Mm.
Basically, accepting all aspects of myself is how I was truly able to step into my power and just embracing myself through all the phases as I was getting to know myself more and loving myself. And I think that's the key to self empowerment, really, and transformation.
Accept the self acceptance. I have never heard that before. I'm going to write that down because that is so powerful. That's a powerful phrase right there. Accept the self acceptance. There are two things that I've heard from people that has made me think, wow. And I finally understand. The first one was from a family friend. It was when I
Yeah.
first moved out here. I was I was by myself because my husband, he had just got orders to Japan. So I was out here all alone, nobody, had no friends, no
Gosh.
family.
I
But
can imagine how hard that was.
it was very hard. It was very hard. But she was around, and she was in the area, but I didn't see her as often. But whenever I would see her, she would, make sure I was okay. And one of the things that she said to me was, get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yes,
And
that's preach.
I did not know at the time, like, what the hell is she talking about? Why would I want to get comfortable with being uncomfortable? That's uncomfortable. Like, that's not okay. But I realized as I've, you know, progressed through my career, as I have become a wife into the military community, I've learned to understand what being comfortable with being uncomfortable is. And that is just simply understanding that not everything is going to always go the way you plan for them. Not everything is going to always go the way you expect them to. And that's okay. As long as you know how to bounce back from it and you know how to adapt to it really quick, that's okay. And so I've learned to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Now I have to learn to accept the self acceptance.
It's so, everything you just said is so powerful, because being uncomfortable is, I believe, where the true self growth stems
Yeah.
from, because that's how you really, dig deep and understand yourself better. And I think it's so important to learn how to navigate through those emotions, and knowing that it's okay. I think that's key, is you don't have to fit into any kind of box. It's your journey, and it's your journey alone.
Yes, I think they call that growing pains. When
Mm.
you have growing pains, that is actually, that's good that you're having growing pains. If you're not having growing pains, then you're probably not evolving. You're probably not, growing as a person, as a man, as a woman, as a professional. But it's very important that you go through those growing pains. And there have been so many things that I've gone through within, especially within the last year now, but within the last, I want to say 3 years, there's been a lot that I have gone through, and I just appreciate those growing pains. As you put them, no mistakes, but lessons. And
Yes.
every moment that you go through is a lesson, whether it's a good lesson or a bad lesson. And I say bad as in, like, okay, if it makes you upset or makes you cry, it's okay. Have that moment, have that cry. But if it's a lesson, as in, all right, I can see the blessing in disguise in this. I feel like we all have to go through that in order to grow and be a better version of ourselves. So
Absolutely. And it's remembering that, we never stop learning, we never stop
mhm.
evolving. And I like to remind myself that the present moment is the destination. And, you're in this moment, make the best out of it. What are you going to do today? And I think it's important to just come back, to self and centering yourself. And that's the key relationship to mastering everything else in life, is the relationship with ourselves.
Best thing a woman could have is what?
Self-worth.
Oh my goodness, I feel like we're on the same level here because mine was self-love.
Wow. It's funny, because I was going to say self-love, but then I went with self-worth.
But I think that says a lot about who we are and
Yes.
what we're about as women.
100%.
Self-love, I feel like when you have self-love, no one can, and this is not just with women, but just in general too. I mean,
Right.
it's
Right.
with men as well. But when you have self-love, no one can tell you how you're supposed to be loved. No one can
100%.
tell you the right way. No one can tell you the wrong way. You know how you are meant to be loved because you love yourself more than anything else. You love yourself more than your job. You love yourself more than just anything that is not good for you.
Absolutely.
How you're meant to be loved.
And it's also, adding on to what you just said, it's also protecting your inner peace, because that's so important as well. And staying true to yourself. At the end of the day, no matter what you do, always stay true to who you are.
Yes. As a interview we put it last week, she says she does not conform to anyone's desires of what they think she should be. how they view her. She, at the end of the day, she's gonna be who she is and love herself. And you either take it or you leave it. You don't love it, I have
Yeah.
nothing against you.
Yeah.
That's you. But if you love it,
Yeah.
hey, I love it. So I think that's really good. Self-worth and self-love. I love how we were literally on the same like mindset as that.
Yeah, those are both so key, and it's also remembering that we are only in control of our own effort and our own attitude. So we have to remember that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Before I let you go, Camilla, please put out all of your social media or website that you may have, where
Yes.
people can find you. Where can people get in touch with you?
So they can go directly to my website, and that's www.camillarambaldi.com. They can also follow me on my Instagram page, which is Camilla Rambaldi _TV. And then if they just search Camilla Rambaldi on Twitter or Facebook, they can find me there as well. But all that information is also linked on my website.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching as well, please follow Camilla. Please check out her blog, The Empowered You. I encourage you all to connect with her. She's a great woman, great person, great spirit. Camilla, thank you so much for joining me. This was such a great interview. I hope we can do this again. I can bring you
Yes,
back for another episode in the future.
absolutely. This was so much fun, and just overall, just a really powerful interview. I'm so glad we got to share this space and connect and really empower other people that are watching this right now. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining.